Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name's Ryan, or RGR Productions, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made my movie-style Phase 2 Captain Rex helmet completely out of cardboard. The templates for this are listed in the description below on my Etsy store, so please go check those out. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, because it greatly motivates me to make videos like these. Alright, let's get on with the build.
Right here I have the base visor template all cut out from my Captain Rex Episode 3 style Phase 2 helmet. As you can see, it's the exact same shape as my Commander Bly helmet. It's just the only difference is the visor. So now what I'm going to do is work on the chin area, put in that mouthpiece, then the chin piece, and then I'm going to fill in the cheeks and then do those parts that curve around them. Last clip you saw me working on this, and now what I've went ahead and done is took a 26.5-inch long strip of cardboard, rolled it up in a tube, and then added some little supports going in both directions to hold it in that oval shape. So now what I'm going to do is just attach the two pieces together. So I'll be back once I have that done. Alright, and there we go. Now you can see that I've got it all attached, and I just glued it onto this little lip. You couldn't tell earlier, this is 2 layers thick. I added a tiny little border on the inside edge there. So, yeah. Now I'm going to start working on the mouth area. So this is basically the same style as my Commander Bly helmet. I'm just going to try to make it a little bit more accurate on this one. So, let's cut to that time lapse.
So I'm just going to try to state this right now. These are not a direct reskin of my last templates. I actually modified them to make them more accurate and much better. They're a lot better than the Commander Bly ones, so just keep that in mind. First thing I did was take a piece that I traced for the mouth. This is a direct rip from my other helmet, and I just traced that over there, glued it on, and then I ended up changing the angle piece of the chin. I changed that shape a lot, so that's another change from the other helmet. And then I also changed like the area where that little detail goes at the bottom. Then once I was happy with that, I glued that piece on, and it's kind of sitting at a good angle at the side. Like if you look at it from a side profile, it's going down fairly flat and then it slightly angles forwards. So here you can see me working on those side tube pieces, and these are just the same as the other ones. I modded them a little bit to make them close a little bit more, because once they do that, they're a lot more accurate. Because if you look at the movie, they're really small circles in the middle. There's not much space there. I mean, obviously, Captain Rex isn't in Revenge of the Sith, but this is just like a theorized look, and I really like it. So now you can see me tracing out the final shape that I like on a new box, and I'm just cutting it out twice, and then I glued all the flaps together, so this one's a lot more slim than my other one, and it might not look like it, but at the back side there actually is some flaps, so you can barely see them on the templates, but they are there, and they need to be constricted as well. Now, one thing that's handy though is in the spackling stage of this helmet, you actually don't need to spackle over that seam connecting the side cheek tube to the main front tube, because it's covered by the weld lines. So now you can see I'm gluing up the second one, and it kind of angles in towards the front so it can be flat. It's not just like a straight tube like the animated version. So yeah. Then I took another piece of cardboard and I filled in the gap in the circle. Now you can see me doing this, and it actually takes a really long time, but it's well worth it in the end, because you just take a piece of cardboard and you cut out the circle shape. You basically hold it up to the backside, cut it out, and then glue it on the inside edge. You can see me here trying to guess what the shape will be. And actually, one thing that you have to make sure that you do is before you glue on those side support pieces underneath the cheeks, you have to glue in the middle piece, because I made that mistake on my Commander Bly helmet, and therefore the template shape had to fit through the front, which made it super wide, and it just didn't look good, and I wasn't happy with it. Here you can see me working on the side wall on the side of the cheeks, and I did put this file in my template. It is different from the other one, because you can see this one in his modded helmet shape. The other one just kind of had a smooth curve going all the way across the cheek side, but this one has a kind of curved piece, and then it angles back like 90 degrees and cuts the other way in a kind of curve. So it is different, and I just try to keep that in mind. The side panel walls are different. And here you can see I've glued in those front walls in the middle, and those are very important because it's what you're going to be mounting those front 2 nozzle tubes onto. And then I took some more cardboard and wrapped it around those 2 side supports. Now the side support is kind of like a teardrop shape cut in half, if you can imagine that. And it just basically stops the side walls where the cheeks are from caving in, and it's very important because if you don't do this, then both of your sides won't be as symmetrical, and it just makes it much easier. And now you want to wrap that tube that you started at the front around to the back and across where the ear is, and then you do that on both sides. And then now I'll cut to this video explaining more things.
So basically all I've done from the last time lapse that you didn't see is basically I added a little bit of a border wall on this back edge on both sides, and then I added one strip of cardboard that goes there. So now what I'm going to do is take this one big piece of cardboard, curl it up, and then glue it in the back side. And then I'll cut back so I can show you how to attach this big crazy piece. Now you can see the back is all nice and attached there. It's one big plate, and my head barely fits, but as long as it barely fits, it'll fit once the helmet's done. So now what I'm going to do is take this big piece of cardboard that I showed you earlier, and basically all you're going to need to do is glue together these gaps. So just fold it and then bend it to have the gaps glued together, and then I'll show you where to glue on the supports and where to glue this piece on. So I'll be back. So I have this piece all glued up, and actually I'm not going to use the supports to attach it. You totally can, they're included in the templates if you purchase them. But if you glue up this piece to like this, you really don't need it. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this on. Just glue it down the middle first, middle to the middle, and then slowly glue the sides on until it's all glued on. Make sure that the bottom lip is also glued on. So I'll be back once I have that glued on, and then we'll do a bunch of the other smaller details. So here you can see I'm working on the dome, and I've done a couple of supports on it. Basically all I did is I traced out the shape of the side, and then I flipped it vertically so I have the shape. And now what I'm working on is gluing up this one piece, which is basically just like a foot long piece of cardboard with a couple of nicks cut out at every ½ inch or so. And basically you just glue that up all the way across, and then you can glue it at the end there, and then it'll meet up at the back. So I'll be back once I have this piece glued on.
Here you can see the fin I did on the top, and what I did with this is I took 2 pieces of cardboard and traced the shape of the curvature on the dome, and then I glued about a 3/4 inch wall in between the 2 edges, and then all I have to do is cover the top edge with a little bit of corrugated cardboard. So now I'll go do that. So basically right here, as you can see, I'm starting to fill in the dome area, and these pieces are the exact same as the 2 cross forks are. And at this point, you can also remove the supports. Those aren't necessary anymore. So I take a piece of cardboard and do the same sort of style, roll it over the edge, and then I add in the gaps on the sides. And I'll have a little video later on showing you how to do those. And here you can see me working on some of the smaller details around the bottom edge. One of those being those little ear panels. So you can see I just cut a big circle out that was the same width as the side panel. And then I cut 2 of them out, put a little bit of a cardboard ring around it so it covered up the corrugation, and then I glued those on. And here I'm just mapping out what it'll look like for those little 3 bands that go on the sides. So basically those were a big pain to make, but I'm really happy with how they turned out. It's just a piece of cardboard that I traced out that kind of goes down, and then once it reaches at one point, it has a kink in it and then curves around the bottom. And obviously the sides are covered, so you're gonna have to make 6 of those. But here I'm working on that tiny little side circular detail, and what's hard about this is it has a angled edge, but it wraps all the way around the circle. So what I did to fix that problem was I took a piece of cardboard and I cut out a very large circle, and then I wrapped that around the smaller circle, and it gave it a nice cone effect. And now on the other side where the rangefinder goes, you have to do that same thing, but then you have to cut out a hole for the rangefinder to go through. So the PVC pipe will have to have an insertion point so it can actually fit through. And now I decided to finish off the back of the dome. This part is very repetitive, but it's very handy because it works super well and looks super nice. You can see as the main rangefinder post, I used a barbecue skewer. And that works really nicely, and it's super sturdy. I mean, it can break, but most of the time it doesn't. So now I'll show you how to fill in the gaps on the dome. If you decide to purchase the templates for this Phase 2 movie style Captain Rex, basically all the pieces are going to be included except for these tiny little wedges inside the dome. And the reason why is because they vary with each helmet. You can't exactly map it out because there's slight differences that make it impossible to predict what these shapes will be like. And also, they're also very simple. So I'm going to show you how to do one of those right now. You just take a little square of cardboard, cut it out, and then you bend it with your fingers like this. And then you place it on top of the hole, and then you flip it around and go to the inside. You can see there, I'm holding it over the gap. You hold it over the gap, and then you trace it out. You can see here I have the shape all traced out. So all you have to do is just give it a slight border, less than 1 millimeter. Now it should fit nicely. So now all I have to do is glue that in, and then now I'm going to show you how you can cut out this channel across the back. So I'll be back. So this little side bevel on the edge basically starts right above where the visor ends. So if you mark out where the visor ends, go right above that, and then once you're on the dome half, go up about 3/4 of an inch, and then wrap that all the way around to the other side and cut out it the same way. You can see me using scissors and an X-Acto knife combo, and it works really well when you use both because you can use the X-Acto knife to get the brute force done, and then use the scissors to clean up the edge, and it works really nicely. And obviously there is some overlap, but it worked well. And then I glued in a piece that goes on the inside edge, and then I'm starting to do the back triangular bits. Now these are some really elongated triangles, but the goal of this was to achieve those kind of long stripes that are on the back. And I'm not doing the circle on the back yet, but it's the exact same process as those ones on the sides. And now I'm done spackling, and the spackling stage in this helmet is very simple. I have it explained in much other videos. What I'm doing right now is trying to add all the weld marks to the helmet. So to achieve that, I found out this really cool technique, which is using hot glue. You just put hot glue where all the weld lines are, so across the brow, down into the cheek panels, and across the face plate. And basically what this does is it makes a raised weld line. And if you burn the edge of the hot glue line that you already have on with the front of the glue stick, then it achieves a really nice effect that I'm really happy with. Here I am working on the rangefinder, which is a little bit different from the movie version. This, you can either do it the Battlefront 2 version or the kind of action figure version. I got this picture reference from a Sideshow Collectibles action figure of Captain Rex, which is pretty accurate, and there's 2 versions, so just pick whichever one you want. It's basically just a box shape on a stick.
Now it's time to paint the whole front of this blue, just like my other Captain Rex helmet. So basically, all you guys know what the Captain Rex look looks like. It's a little blue strip that goes up the middle, all the way around to the sides, back up across the top, and then the 2 J guys at the top. So what I'm going to do is just paint this area blue, and then paint all the way from here, all the way to the other side blue, and down here blue. So I'm just going to mask off this gray, and this gray. And then, it'll be time. Now you can see I've gotten all the blue masked off. I have the 2 J guys up top. I have this gray band around the back, all masked off. And I have the mouth and all the blue down here masked off. So now it's time to go paint everything else gloss white, and then we can work on painting these silver and putting the rust around the edges.
So the first stage in weathering is always doing paint chips all over the helmet. So with that, I did an effect where I just took some white paint and I brushed it over and kind of made it look like paint chipping. You just kind of brush it over the edges wherever you think there'd be wear and tear from daily use. And then what I did is I covered the weld lines with some silver paint, and that gave it a really cool effect. I really liked how that looked. And then what I did is I took some copper paint, and I put that copper paint, I mixed it with a little bit of gold paint, and I put that on the edges of that piece. So if you look at this now, you can see that the edges have a little bit of copper lining on them. And then I took that circular piece that's the same as the side, and I just added a little bit of an extension because it was too short and it wouldn't reach the whole direction. And then I just put it on the back and glued it on. And now I basically had to do the tally marks. Now the tally marks you want to make sure to do before the weathering stage, and I'll tell you a little bit later why that's important. Basically just draw some tally marks. There's 6 sets of tally marks on each side, making a total of 12 tally marks. And then basically the weathering stage is just taking some black paint and putting a little bit of water in that in a cup, and then mixing that together, getting a brush and applying it to the helmet, and then putting on a paper towel or rag and wiping it off. Now, the reason why you want to do the hash marks before the weathering stage is because in the weathering stage, if you're using acrylic paints for those hash marks, it'll actually rub off a little bit of the paint and make it a real weathering technique. So, I really like that.
You can see I've gotten all the weathering done on the helmet. So now basically what I'm going to do is take these little pegs that I made. They're supposed to go right here. And I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife, cut a hole there, and then just plug them in. And then I can put on the visor. So basically the visor is the same thing as my other helmet. It's some window tint on top of a piece of plastic, and you can look through it and you can see through it just fine. It's a little dark, but you can see. So I'm going to glue that on the inside, and I'll be back once I have all these things attached. Also, you can see I've weathered the rangefinder as well. So now with the visor all nice and tightly glued in and these pegs securely poking through the sides, that is it. With the rangefinder attached, that is how I made my Phase 2 movie-style Captain Rex helmet. So now, I'll cut to the outro. So with this Captain Rex helmet, I have a special announcement to make that I'm going to be making its armor. But I want to get your guys' opinion on if you want to see me make templates for that armor, because that will greatly extend the time it will take to do that, because it's going to be like 35, 40 pages of just straight templates. So yeah, go over to my community tab and you can vote on that, yes or no, to see if you want me to make templates for this. Obviously, I'm going to be making templates regardless that I'm posting my Etsy for the pauldron and blasters. But just for the armor, I want to know if you guys want to see that. Alright, let's cut to the outro.
This project was really fun to make, and I highly recommend that you make it too. If you want to make it too, I have these templates up on my Etsy store for a fairly cheap price, so please go check those out. Also, if you have any suggestions for what I should make in the future, please leave them in the comments down below. Next time, I will be making Captain Rex's armor, so stay tuned for that. This has been RJR Productions, signing off till next time.